Oh, oh, look at you. No, I've got a bourbon chilling in the fridge. We good.
Nice. Just waiting on YouTube to catch up.
Oh, it's telling us that we're streaming live.
Hello to one more time. Hello to all you patriots out there in podcast land. Welcome to episode 346 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the #1 book and rifle club in Canada. We're recording on April 25th, 2022. As always, my name is Andrew and I'll be your host.
We need your help. To support Canadian Patriot Podcast, visit patreon.com/CPP and become a Patreon. You can get a better quality version of the show for just $1 an episode. Show you're not a communist. Buy a CPP t-shirt for just $24.99 plus shipping and theft. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com, our homepage, and follow the link on the right.
All right, that takes us to my favorite segment. It's called What Are We Drinking? It's also where you tell us about something you've done to complete something on the Patriot Challenge in recent history. And as is new tradition, we start with Liz.
Perfect. So I am drinking gin and tonic. So that's going down very easily.
Excellent.
And yeah, something that I finished on the Patriot Challenge. I mean, been reading a bit lately.
Convenient,
Developed a
given that
new
it's book
skill.
club.
Yeah, right. Developed a new skill. Or sorry, I didn't develop a new skill. I'm working on a skill. Always jujitsu.
Jocko would be
So-
proud of you.
Yeah, happy Jocko noises.
I don't know what that means. What
Good.
are happy Jocko
Yeah,
noises?
yeah, good.
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 But just like an
Get
intense
after it.
staring. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now we're just going to have to get you to take up surfing. You'll be all set.
I can't do that.
Sure you can. It's super easy. If I can do it, you can do it.
Doubtful. Stand up paddle boards I can't even do.
Let's go to Gavin. Gavin, what are you drinking?
I am drinking Bullet Bourbon and Diet Pepsi this evening. And I also have been doing a bunch of reading, but I just like reading and drinking all of my water. And I did a little fitness over the weekend, but not as much as some other people.
Good man. Guess that makes it me. I am drinking this wonderful orange can of taste not unlike filleting a pine tree. It is Ransack the Universe from Collective Arts Brewing. It's 6.8%, and it's awesome. Oh, and I think I'm doing to be a better person. Today, I knocked off everything on the list.
Nice. Good
I
job.
drank 2 liters of water before I started drinking beer. I read for 15 minutes because I went over my little bookmarks in my book. I exercised for 45 minutes, which is why the show started 3 minutes late. I practiced a skill because I messed with my Garmin Fortrex to try to figure out why my route wasn't right from the weekend. And was there something else I was supposed to do? Right, improve my fighting position. I did a bunch of chores because I wasn't home over the weekend.
Is one of the chores wearing that fine t-shirt?
This is not a chore. This is a lovely t-shirt. I'll hold this up to the microphone for our audience at home. This is my vintage International Liberty or Death podcast t-shirt. Not available anywhere anymore.
Well, yeah.
Was that
Neither is
like
the podcast. I'm trying to find that podcast.
You can't.
We can
I
make
know.
that happen.
whose
I know, I've-
podcast was this?
Tyler and Matt, who have both been on this podcast,
Yeah.
Okay.
but they have small families and young children, and it's busy. So they don't podcast so much anymore.
Fair.
Let's go to Pierre. Pierre, what are you drinking?
Whiskey.
Solid. What have you done?
Other than reading the book, I'm practicing skills. I've got a lock pick set, and I got real good at popping locks. And now I can't pop them.
Nice.
So but now it's making me mad. Like I popped this lock like 100 times, and now I can't fucking get it. So I've been trying to re-get it. So I don't know.
Probably
Try.
overthinking it.
Yeah, probably overthinking it or something. So I kind of like put it aside, and I'm still trying to get them. And they're mostly locks that I use for a lot of things, like all my ammo cans, safes and all that stuff. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to worry about locks that I'm going to need more than breaking into someone's house in case my keys get lost. And yeah, it's
Fair.
just driving me nuts now, which is why we're drinking whiskey tonight.
I mean, that makes good sense to me.
The Monday.
It's a Monday. We drink on Mondays, and on the last Monday of the month, we do book club. But before we do book club, I will briefly mention one event rather than reading the entire list of events. The next event that's coming up on the to-do list is the Rasool Finnish Reserve Sport Association Remote Military March, May 26th to 29th. Sign up on the Rasool, R-E-S-U-L, Rasool 4-day march.fi. FI for Finland. Make sure when you sign up as part of Team Ragnarok. Everybody knows Team Ragnarok is the best.
Yep.
Book club?
Book club.
Book club.
All right. It is the last Monday of the month, and we are going back to the part of high school that I skipped over, reading George Orwell. I'm going to hold my red book up to the microphone for the audience at home. Do you hear that? Yeah. So I've got my copy of Animal Farm. I've got a newly illustrated copy, but all of the original unaltered text, which is great because it's all of 100 pages long. It's very convenient.
Yes.
And maybe I ought to ask, I feel like this is one of those books they should have covered in school, but like they definitely did not when I went to school.
I think they did when my mom was in school. Because I think she also had to read like 1984 and Animal Farm.
Right. And I feel like it's one of those, because it's like a well-regarded, like it's one of the best books. It keeps ending up on lists. It's like I don't know, like a nebula.
Usually that banned in schools list, but yeah, no, I had to do this one in school.
Okay, there you go.
And I'm trying to think if it was middle school or high school. It was sort of either early high school or late middle school. So like somewhere around like grade 7 through 10, somewhere in that ballpark. Like it wasn't like it was like high level English class. It was early on. But like a lot of those like banned books when I was in the school system were mandatory or were like part of the optional books.
So not yet banned.
Yeah, so like I did Lord of the Flies was mandatory. This was mandatory. It was like Catcher in the Rye was mandatory. To Kill a Mockingbird was mandatory. Like
that's what I mean. Like
books.
Some of these sound like, yeah, okay, I remember reading some of these in school, but like Orwell did not make the cut, at least in my school board, I guess.
Yeah.
We're also talking, when I went to school, there was a lot of mandatory stuff, but I just didn't do any of the mandatory stuff. So if this was something to read, I didn't read it. But no, this wasn't one when I was in school. But I also went to a French school. So we probably read something about poutine and beavers.
Yeah, so it'd be like La Farm to Animals.
Yeah. and it's taken over by a talking pineapple and some skeletons.
Yeah. And the orange. One. And the orange. Tac-tac-tac.
Yeah.
All right. So the book.
Book.
Not new, not a difficult read.
No.
Hot takes right off the bat.
I started reading it and automatically thought, this is where veganism comes from.
I mean,
like the way that the narrative that is used about, like in the beginning of it, the narrative that's used about the hierarchy of like the highest moral beings are these animals. Right. And I was like, oh, and the way that they talk about like, that was literally the first thing that went through my mind. So I was like, this is where vegans get their ideology. It's this book. And then I looked it up. It turns out veganism like pretty much started in that era.
The weird thing is though, is I guess that makes sense. They just didn't take the bad parts of it. They're like, yeah, the not eating meat and the communism part, we're gonna take that in, but not that the communism is bad part of the book.
I suppose if you're a communist, there isn't anything to eat, animals or otherwise.
Yeah.
I just like, honestly though, that was in my notes. I have little notes.
Oh.
That is literally the first thing that crossed my mind as I was going through this book. It's like, man, I've heard PETA talk like this.
Well, I mean, I prefer, like, I wouldn't say that it's a great book because it's like communism and everything. It's certainly not as bleak as 1984, and I prefer the writing in this over 1984 personally.
It is a fun read.
It is.
Yeah,
I mean, if you
really
can, like,
easy read. Easy read.
I mean, yes, some of the language, I mean, it's very period specific, like turn of the previous century,
Yeah.
because like, okay, what's a dog cart? When they say a van, but it's being pulled by horses. There was definitely like some like specific rural English language.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also easily like you can figure it out easy. You're like, well, that's not what I call it, but you know what he's talking.
Yes, the context alone is enough to get it. But there's definitely some less commonly used English vocabulary.
At least
I
now. Back then, there could have been a little bit more.
Oh,
But
I
I mean, he was also
know what that is.
well,
you know,
and back
like a
then,
literary
I mean,
guy. So
all of like 1944. So I mean, not that old, not that new.
Yeah.
I mean, probably bears mentioning the entire thing is an allegory for the Russian Revolution in 1917.
Yeah.
And I was trying to do it from memory, and Russian history is not my favorite part of history. So I did not pay attention in that part of school. They may not have even covered it in that part of school.
I actually looked up some of that stuff because I had also read a couple of reviews that indicated that it was based on, like, Orwell got his inspiration from a letter that he had received from a friend of his. So, you know, it's pretty interesting. Like, I don't think that we as a society really know a lot of that history. We're definitely not taught it, but it's still pretty relatable to some of the things we see in like the late 20th or mid to late 20th century, you know, not just the early 20th.
Well, I mean, there's definitely, I've got some notes for a couple of things I want to
I would say
touch
most
on.
the thing that most people know about the whole Russian thing is from a song by Boney M, Rasputin.
Yeah.
That's about all they know about that.
Yeah. That's actually true. And the cartoon, what was the cartoon? They made a cartoon.
Ren and Stimpy?
Yes.
No, what is the Romanovs? Yeah, the Romanovs, right? What was the daughter that they always said was like still
Anastasia?
Anastasia? There we go.
Yeah.
There was a cartoon that was made about that in 1997.
And it's a lyric in one of Corblund's songs, because he was a white guard, he was a red guard, and he was the Tsar's own palace horse guard. But anyway, pop culture aside, the two kinds of music that you can listen to are country and Western.
Yeah, that's it.
Hey.
No.
Not disagreeing too much.
It's just like, yeah.
No, I mean, we could talk like old school metal and new school metal. I mean, I'm okay with some country.
I could talk about metal, but
I mean, the only thing this book, the only thing I noticed was like, wow, like it wouldn't surprise me if this was written last year about the goddamn fucking liberal government.
Yeah.
Right? It is very relatable to current governments. And I thought this was because like my Russian history is not very versed. I am not super familiar with it. I know a little bit like Tsar Nicholas. I understand like the Russian Revolution happened. I know who Marx was in a general sort of sense. So I was trying to go through the book and like place the historical figure without doing the research up front, and then did the research after the fact to see like how close was I. And not bad, not good, but not bad. Because like the very beginning of the book, the pig major that predicts like the revolution is coming. I'm like, well, that's got to be Marx, right? So this is 100% like that's what's going on here. Communism will save everything. I mean, they don't go so far as to like directly say communism in the book, but
it's implied,
strongly implied.
Yeah.
But something that I kind of thought of too, like what you were saying, Pierre, about how you can compare it to recent events and recent situations. One thing that I kind of thought was really interesting is that Benjamin, the donkey. He was like the wisest motherfucker out there. He knew
Benjamin
everything.
is probably my favorite character in this book.
Right. Except for the fact,
Very
okay,
relatable.
so he knew everything. He knew what was going on. He could read, he could understand, he knew, but he didn't say anything until it was like too late. The horse was going to the meat plant. Sorry, spoiler alert. You know, like
I feel like at this point it's okay to spoil the book if you haven't read.
yeah,
Animal
it's
Farm.
true.
Like,
go
you probably
home
should just
and
go
spend
read
a
it.
half an hour. Yeah, spend
Yeah.
that 45 minutes. You'll be fine. But I just thought it was really interesting because I'm like, we encounter that quite a bit now, where people are smart and maybe like awake to certain ideologies that are like, hey, pay attention to what's going on, these trends, these habits, these situations, but aren't saying anything. And then you get stuck in this situation where it's like too late. You know, you have the cow or the other mare, the other horse that's like, hey, did the rules on the wall change? I don't remember. You know,
Can we, I mean, maybe it's not an allegory, but it's in that same vein. I'm not sure on the right word, but do you notice that the talking points are very short and very easy to memorize? And when they change them slightly, no one notices. Does that seem to anyone else vaguely reminiscent of anything else that's gone on since like the 24-hour news cycle became a thing?
No.
You mean the coup?
No. That's
I don't even mean that. I mean literally anything since like 1990.
You're remembering wrong. You're remembering wrong.
Well, it's been
That's not
memory
what
hole.
happened.
Yeah.
That's not what happened. You're remembering wrong.
But that's the point.
It's the same thing. Yeah, it's the no. It always says that.
Yeah.
Or the no. You misunderstood, comrade.
Yeah.
I just love how they keep saying comrade. It
Yeah.
makes me giggle every time I read it.
Yeah, but like
I mean,
the whole,
talking animals is funny.
Yeah,
But them being called
killing
comrade
other animals.
Well,
So
so
like,
what's
that's a good one,
interesting?
right?
What was that, Kevin?
Well, the no killing other animals, and then it's
I
like
know.
no
Without
killing.
cause.
Yeah, it's like it's those little subtle.
It's the
things.
little additions later to suit the narrative, and it's
completely
like I've
change
seen this movie before. I
Yeah.
know how this ends. Like we've
Yeah.
no animal shall sleep in a bed
Without sheets. So we
right.
just
So we
took off
took
the
those
sheets
and we
and put the
sleep between
blankets on
blankets.
without the sheets.
I'm like, you goddamn pigs!
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you couldn't tell the difference between the pigs and the humans.
Right? As I
Yeah.
And
I
at
feel
one
this way
point, they
about
were worshiping a
politicians.
skull.
Yeah.
They were marching around a skull. And I'm like,
The skull, I think,
understand.
is an interesting allegory for two different things, right?
Okay, I'm interested because I did not
So,
get onto that.
When Lenin
Yeah.
died, they interred him in Red Square for like 100 years, and they like you just go visit the body of this dead dude.
Yeah, in the
Oh.
glass coffin or whatever. Yeah.
So it's the same sort of. I mean, part of it is like that weird ancestor worship thing, but part of it is like this is a hero of the revolution. I mean, Old Major, the animal that gets turned, that predicts all of this happening, he says there's going to be the revolution. He dies of old age. They bury him. They later dig him up, and then they do some ancestor worship with the skull on Sundays, and everybody parades by. There's Old Major is definitely more of a Karl Marx character, but there is definitely like some Lenin hero of the revolution worship stuff going on.
Yeah.
As long as it's beneficial to the ruling class, because as soon as it becomes that it's no longer beneficial, the pigs that are in charge get rid of that skull. It's the same way that they have the horn and hoof flag, which conveniently looks a lot like a hammer and a sickle.
I know, right?
Well, but even like but
they get rid of it when it's no longer convenient.
Well, and
right?
the songs they sing and the ceremony they hold to, remember the day and this and that, it changes over time too to suit the way that things have changed. So it's like
narrative.
Yeah. Oh, I remember holding this, ceremony last year on our Independence Day or whatever they call it. So you remember doing the thing. It's just that it's slightly different this time.
Slightly different.
But then you tend to forget why you're doing it. right?
And
Yeah.
they have that through the book. There are generations of animals that have only ever lived under this system. They don't know anything else. Even animals that have come from other farms, they forget the way things were before. They forget the way the farm ran under Jones. Jones is an allegory for Tsar Nicholas. Like, there's a bunch of stuff going on there that, as the ruling party has changing needs, they change their political ideology, or at least like the story of their political ideology. So they change the songs to suit their needs. They change their public holidays to suit their needs. They give themselves new military decorations for things that maybe have some creative accounting going on with what actually transpired.
Oh, for sure. Because like, what was the other pig's name?
Snowball.
Snowflake? Snowball?
No, Snowflake was the dolphin from Ace Ventura.
Okay.
Snowflake is 90% of the population in Canada.
Yeah.
That too.
Also fair.
Yeah.
Snowball, like they decided to change the story of even the awards handed
Yes, because over time, Snowball became the enemy. And if
they had to have an enemy to deflect.
Well, if Napoleon, they had to have a scapegoat, not just an enemy. They had to have a scapegoat to deflect this too. So, Napoleon the Pig is very clearly an allegory for Stalin, right? That's the political character. So Snowball would be the equivalent of Trotsky.
Oh. There you
And
go.
this is where we start to run into the limits of my knowledge of Russian history. But
it's still pretty impressive.
I read books. We do this thing.
Yeah, but I mean, reading.
I know they don't
and
cover this in school, and
that's
they don't cover it in school, and they don't cover how to critically think about some of these things. And I think that part of the reason why this sort of thing is not covered is if you understood, like, I mean, for starters, Orwell was a socialist, like the Alexandria Ocasio Cortez variety, like democratic socialist, like let's all vote for free shit variety of socialist. Which, I mean, on its face is not necessarily a bad thing. It's like, yay, public services, but also like, boo, fascist governments.
But you got to remember too, though, like the era in which he was living. First of all, the guy was like in between a couple of wars. So like, he was seeing the decimation of people in general. And the economies of those countries were being annihilated.
Yes, and Britain was going through the whole change in the parliamentary system from having a monarchy to having a parliament, and the parliament trying to figure out how to run things, and still having the House of Lords being involved and having elected representation. Is the interwar period. He was heavily influenced by, what was the war that was going on in Spain in the late 30s? Was that the Spanish Revolution, like 1936?
I don't know. Let me check.
Very heavily influenced by whatever happened in Spain in the middle 30s.
Yeah, but I mean, I think he also kind of shows that, like, the original
1936.
Yeah, the original intent of the sort of revolt was good, right? Like, because the farmer was certainly not good, so like something had to change.
Was the farmer not good, or did the pigs just tell you the farmer was
well, I
good?
guess that's, I mean, something that can be up for debate. But I mean, if you take it at face value and that he was a drunk and he didn't do things well, then like, just like, if you go back to
I'm a drunk and I do lots of things just fine.
But you're not a farmer.
What did they say?
You don't know that.
But like, if it's the same as like Tsar Nicholas, like I'm sure he did some things well, but he was also kind of a prick. So, getting rid of him wasn't necessarily a bad thing, but like you replaced one bad thing with another bad thing. So like the intent was there. The follow through was just terrible.
Was it terrible, or was it just a political power grab by people who got into power? Not unlike Stalin. The Russian Revolution. In theory, communism is a good system. Everybody gets treated equally, and to quote Marx, my least favorite people, who I hope is burning in hellfire. Fuck that guy. From each according to his ability, to his needs. Right? Like, you should get the things you require to be a productive member of society, and everybody's level of productivity is going to be different based on their ability. And I understand that. But also, if I put capital out and take risks and do big dangerous things, I should get more reward than people who do not. But I mean, like, I might die doing that, and that's the risk, right?
Yeah. No, but I think it's
summary. Fuck Karl Marx.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, I think it's just that the people that have the ability to take advantage of the fact that there is a bad situation that people want change, and they pretend to be the change that's needed and trick everyone into it.
I don't understand what's going on YouTube. We must have a new listener. Apparently, we are apologizing for socialism, and I don't understand.
Oh, I'm seeing this here.
Why? We are reviewing a book written by a socialist. We've also reviewed books written by communists. Just because we review books doesn't mean we're socialists.
Well,
it means we read.
Who is this?
I don't know. And I'm not any further interested in responding beyond that. So,
thank you.
George Orwell, good. YouTube commenter, bad. Everybody together now.
No, you mean
is it Sunday and we got to put our Sunday best and do the chant?
Well, no, you can't put your Sunday best on because like nobody should have any finery because everyone is equal, right?
Yeah, we're all equally terrible and equally poor, and yeah.
Okay, everybody, grab your cup.
Right. I'm not sharing. This is my cup. You get your own cup.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say let's cheers to whatever's happening and have a sip.
Yeah, I don't know. But
YouTube
I mean, hey, I love me some trolls.
I mean, I guess I feel like we've done that
really
enough.
don't, but
I feel like we've done that enough. I'm going to have some more beer. We're going to talk about some more Orwell. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah. But no, I think this is a good book, and like the neat thing about it is that like it's a book that you can read to your kids, and there's some stuff that they can get out of it. But there's certainly like a book that's written
animals
on
are awesome, right?
Well, yeah, but it's a book that's on like a bunch of different levels, right? So there's like the face value story of the animals, right? But then there's the stuff that we're getting into that's the more in-depth analysis, which is definitely the Russian revolt and all of the other things. So like
I do think that the Russian Revolution is a very interesting piece of history that we don't understand well enough in the English-speaking part of the world.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty normal, though. We've seen that a lot in just the dialogue surrounding this Ukrainian conflict. With Russia, like we don't understand the history enough. Like that's my personal opinion. We don't understand the history enough from like a base level to understand some of the nuances of like what's going on.
Yeah,
I think that is I think that is very valid. I don't think we understand what's going on. I don't think that they cover this well enough in our education system. I think part of that is if we realized how much our politicians acted like certain pigs in certain novels, those politicians would not be continuing to be in power in the way that they are.
Yeah, it's true.
So I do see a lot of similarity, and I guess maybe I'll go to the book for one of the quotes that I had highlighted. So talking about the milk, early in the book, they start doing milk production themselves. For the people that have not read the book, the animals talk and walk and have all of the human characteristics and deal with money and are like all of the, what is that? What do you call that when you give another thing human characteristics? There's a word for that.
Animism? No.
Is it animism? It's not animalism. That's the concept in the book. Not to be confused with the philosophy of animalism, but yes, when you give an inanimate object or an animal human characteristics, there's a thing for that.
Yeah,
I don't know what that's called. I know what it's called. I can't remember what it's called.
That's called being an author.
Yeah,
no.
That's that.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that's how I would.
Yeah, it is. It is fascinating that none of the other like farms in the area are like, wait, talking pigs.
Yeah, everybody's cool with talking pigs, but nobody
doing commerce with them and everything. Yeah.
Well, I mean, commerce
anthropomorphism.
Anthropomorphism. Thank you.
Yeah, whoever that is in the chat, good job.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't know how to say that. Dylan.
Yeah.
Dylan.
Dylan.
Yeah.
I don't know, but thank you.
To the book.
Maybe it's a girl.
Napoleon took no. There's no girls on the internet. Napoleon took no interest in.
They're only 3 miles away, buddy.
To the book, gentlemen and lady.
Okay.
Napoleon took no interest in Snowball's committees. He said that the education of the young was far more important than anything that could be done for those who were already grown up. It happened that Jessie and Bluebell had both whelped soon after the hay harvest, giving birth between them to 9 sturdy puppies. As soon as they were weaned, Napoleon took them away from their mothers, saying that he would make himself responsible for their education. He took them up in the loft, which could only be reached by a ladder from the harness room, and there kept them in such seclusion from the rest of the farm, soon forgot their existence. Important contextual note: the pigs had turned the harness room into like their headquarters. It was only for the pigs.
Yeah.
And the puppies come back later, which is why I highlighted this. But the concept that I had underlined in my note here was to teach the youth, which again, I don't know which particular communist has the quote that I want, but if you teach them as youth and they're communists for life.
I think there was a bunch of people that sang a song about this recently, that they're coming for your children.
No, that's different.
But same thing.
I mean,
it's indoctrinating the youth.
But okay, so like there's a lot of really good historical reference to that being a successful process. Right? Like,
but that's what I mean. If you capture the youth, maybe that's not the right word, but if you indoctrinate
it's an
youth,
indoctrination,
if you put them through,
right?
Well, indoctrination is the right word. And if you put them through that system of education, and that's the system that they grow up learning and understanding, then they're going to embrace that system, which is exactly what we see happening with the 9 puppies, because they become like the bodyguard retinue of the pigs. I mean, up to the point where they're almost killed by Boxer at one point.
Hitler Youth.
I mean, yes.
Yeah.
But that's an example, right? Like that would be.
But if you indoctrinate people in an early enough age, they will.
Well, and I think that when you're young enough,
the difference is like between belief and true belief, right? Sorry, Liz.
No. You were talking. I interrupted.
Well,
Go ahead.
You have the talking stick. Go ahead.
I can pretty much make anything the talking stick. I'm pretty sure it's just because I'm the woman. So I'll take it. I'm okay. I was just going to say that like I saw it quite a bit in the school system, even recently. Okay. And I'm not talking about the education dynamics and content. I'm talking about just how certain recent socio-political moves that were made, how it's impacted the youth so aggressively to the point that, a lot of youth are making decisions because their peers are pressuring them into, and that has historically never been allowed. But as soon as it's part of a narrative, it's obviously acceptable, right? And it's utilized as well. So like very transparently, it's about the vaccine, right? And mask wearing. Yep. Any kid who is like 12 and under, even that I know of that is not vaccinated, has been like made fun of,
right,
or bullied by their peers.
You get indoctrinated into, often violently, into this ideology.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I mean, I think it extends to more than just that. I mean, that's the most recent one and the most obvious one. But I mean, if you look at like the trans trenders, I mean, that's a big thing now.
Not could we?
But like,
not look at that.
But I mean, it's the same thing. It's that woke ideology, and you get them when they're young, and then the kids are allowed to gang up on them as long as it's in favor of whatever the current popular thing is.
Well, let me try to stumble through 2 more paragraphs in the same chapter. The mystery of where the milk went was soon cleared up. It was mixed every day into the pig's mash. The early apples were now ripening, and the grass of the orchard was littered with windfalls. The animals had assumed as a matter of course that these would be shared out equally. One day, however, the order went forth that all the windfalls were to be collected and brought to the harness room for the use of the pigs. At this, some of the animals murmured, but it was no use. All the pigs were in full agreement on this point, even Snowball and Napoleon. Squealer was sent to make the necessary explanation to the others. Comrades, he cried, you do not imagine, I hope, that we pigs are doing this in the spirit of selfishness and privilege. Many of us actually dislike milk and apples. I dislike them myself. Our sole object in taking these things is to preserve our health. Milk and apples, this has been proved by science, comrades, can contain substances absolutely necessary to the well-being of a pig. We pigs are the brain workers. The whole management and organization of this farm depends on us. Day and night, we are watching over your welfare. It is for your sake that we drink that milk and eat those apples. Do you know what would happen if we pigs failed in our duty? Jones would come back. Yes, Jones would come back. Surely, comrades, cried Squealer, almost pleadingly, skipping from side to side and whisking his tail. Surely there is no one among you that wants to see Jones come back. It's the science. It's proven by science, guys.
Yeah, trust the science, bigot.
So
Like
I'm still
I read that. I read
geez,
that, and I got
God.
out the big highlighter, like the really big highlighter. I've seen this before.
yeah, I'm just trying to figure out if they're talking about NDP or liberals.
Yes.
It doesn't matter.
Well,
Yes.
now they're all one. So
Well, but I mean, is it Napoleon or is it Snowball? Is it Stalin or is it Trotsky? Is it democratic socialism or regular socialism? It doesn't really matter.
well, and it's like you don't want to be a defeatist when you look at that, because you could easily say, like, hey, it doesn't really matter, because if it wasn't Napoleon, it could have been Snowball that turned corrupt like this, right? Like
Yeah.
really, like,
I mean, it would
you
really
can only
ruin the
look in-
allegory, but yes.
No, but I mean, truthfully though, you could look back and state that argument, right? For any of these contexts.
Oh, yeah.
You could say like, oh, hey, this person, they didn't have the means, so we kind of look at them differently for looking back. But you can't be defeatist. You kind of have to, like, people need to start paying attention to just history in general. Because it's
I
pretty
would settle
repetitive.
if people started paying attention.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
okay, so here's the thing. I agree with that. Tongue in cheek. That is a very factual, that's like a real statement, but people have to look back at something. Otherwise, paying attention is very subjective. Like, it's whatever. What are you paying attention to, right? Your ideology, Andrew?
Anything. Well, I mean, obviously my ideology.
They
because
are. They're paying attention
my
to the
ideology
news, the
is
science.
well, you have to trust the science. The
I
pig,
know,
the
and
talking
they
pig
are.
says trust the science.
But they are.
But,
so
but
they're,
I'd
so
even be
that's
more.
the point.
I'd even be more open to not even people understanding, but people having an open conversation more than anything.
I don't think the vast majority of people are able to have intelligent political discourse in a way that
I'm
they're not going to lose friends over it.
Yeah, and I'm not even talking a political discussion. I'm just saying having an open conversation, right?
Everything is political.
You prefer
Anything
country and I prefer rock. Okay, let's have a discussion about
that's
why
because
your
wrong.
music sucks
Yeah.
and mine is better, right? But still have I'm even more inclined to say let's allow people or get people to just have an open-end conversation about, okay, let's talk, not argue at each other and call each other Nazis and then do these weird.
No, but if someone disagrees with you, you just call them a racist, and if that doesn't work, you call them Hitler.
And
That's
the problem,
That's
right?
what they've
Let's
been
refrain from
indoctrinated
that.
into. That's the problem.
So,
is that
Let's not even.
This is part of the allowable choices that the indoctrination system that we suffer under has been set up to allow you to have. The things that you're allowed to do when someone disagrees with you is you can call them a racist or a Nazi. Those are your choices.
Yeah. You don't have to have the conversation with them because they're wrong. So you just call them these things and you win the argument.
Yeah. And that's why I'm saying, like, I would be more open to, like, fine, let's have a 5-minute conversation before you call me a Nazi. And then we can work on having a 10-minute conversation over anything else, right? I would just, if we
But
could
why
just
would anyone want
move-
to have a conversation with a Nazi? That's the problem.
Yeah, but they haven't
If you
figured
have
that
a
out yet.
con-
I
if you
have
have a
5 minutes.
You have a conversation with a Nazi, then you've already
Or
lost,
also-
right?
Yeah,
'Cause-
and then you're a
Yeah.
Nazi because you've spent time with them.
right.
So, but that's the problem though, is that you're using like emotional and identity politics to stereotype people, okay, in general, because there's no reason. At what point did we stop being able to ask a question to discover what our stance is on it? Right? Like realistically, and I have a friend that like has said this often in the last couple of weeks, is that he's like, the key to democracy is that you have to have opposing views. You have to, like, and you have to be able to have conversations about it, debate.
So by that logic, we don't have a democracy, but all right, go on.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying though, right? Is that we're becoming dangerously close, because as soon as you get rid of like any dissenting narrative, you've stopped becoming a collaboration of ideas, or like, you know, the discussion, the discourse that allows for that shaping of ideas for a collective good, right? Like it just stops existing. So that's the problem though, is that the whole point of like discussion period in any parliamentary thing is to be able to debate things, discuss them, find out what a common ground is. But if you're no longer even allowed to ask questions about a topic, then you're kind of actually stuck in this really interesting concept of tribalism. You go with the opinion of the people around you, right? Because you can't have, like, I'm
not opposed to that.
tribalism.
Tribalism is probably like
I'm not
the
either.
least obnoxious form of government.
Yeah,
I'm
it
not
just
either,
needs to
but
be
at the
done
same
on the
time-
local
Right.
level.
But at the same time, I guess maybe using the word tribalism isn't necessarily the best option, but like an echo chamber then.
It
Let's-
might be it.
Yeah,
To be
right?
honest, it does sound like the best option.
Let me go back. I made a little note a second ago. Let me go back and ask Pierre an important question when we're talking about tribalism. Megadeth or Metallica? Because this determines the rest of our friendship.
Okay, so are we talking in general or
you can
certain eras?
No, you only get one: Megadeth or Metallica.
Megadeth.
React. Megadeth. Good man. Okay, Pierre and I are still friends.
Yeah, because I'm like, if we're
Crisis
talking
averted.
like, you know, like if we're talking like newer Megadeth, like I don't know, but like the older Metallica, yeah, we can have a discussion after. We're not going to take up the podcast for that, but yeah, no,
I just
out of the two
wanted
Megadeth.
this is Pierre and I can have a reasonable political discourse about which of Dave Mustaine's bands was better.
But at the same time, I picked the right one, so you didn't have to call me a knob.
Right, because we're in the same tribe. We're on Team Megadeth.
But this is why tribalism works, because already inherently there's a lot of similarities between you. So the things that you are debating and having discussion about are more nuanced. And even if you don't get the thing that you want, chances are it's close to the thing that you want, and you're not going to be a butt about it. Like you're going to just be like, yeah, okay.
I have sparked some sort of internet controversy. Apparently, Megadeth is the popular choice in YouTube.
Yes, I mean,
is that because everybody thinks Lars Ulrich is a dick, or is that just me?
We'll talk after.
Okay.
This person, I'm saying this person because
it's best to just not.
Yeah,
because I've got a whole other thing we can read in another chapter.
No.
Oh, I'm like, ooh. It's like they want to be called a troll.
Well, I've got more Squealer to read, which I really wish I had like a funny pig voice. And as a dad of a small child, I feel like I really need to work on my like funny pig impressions.
Probably.
This book is gonna rock in like a year or two.
Yeah, you've got some time to work on it.
Yeah, start reading at bedtime now. You want to talk indoctrination?
Well, I mean, so we just finished up about the sheep being 4 legs good, 2 legs bad, which went on for a quarter of an hour, which is not unlike bedtime with my son.
Start singing that. See what'll happen.
I don't want to. So we've got a piece from Squealer here. Comrades, he said, I trust that any animal here appreciates the sacrifice that Comrade Napoleon has made in taking this extra labor upon himself. Do not imagine, comrades, that leadership is pleasure. On the contrary, it is a deep and heavy responsibility. No one believes more firmly than Comrade Napoleon that all animals are equal. He would only be too happy to let you make your decisions for yourselves. But sometimes you might make the wrong decisions, comrades, and then where would we be? Suppose you decided to follow Snowball with his moonshire of windmills. Snowball, who, as we now know, was no better than a criminal. He fought bravely at the Battle of the Cowshed, said somebody. Bravery is not enough, said Squealer. Loyalty and obedience are more important. And as for the Battle of Cowshed, I believe the time will come when we shall find that Snowball's part in that was much exaggerated. Discipline, comrades, iron discipline. That is the watchword for today. One false step and our enemies would be upon us. Surely, comrades, you do not want Jones to come back.
This sounds an awful lot like a Trudeau speech.
There are echoes.
And
I tried my best to not and ah, and I'm trying to watch the amount of times I say like on the podcast because I know I'm bad for that.
Orwell was a much better writer than Trudeau's speech writers. So, but the vibe is there.
Honk, honk.
The pieces that I want to touch on that were the leadership, the bravery, the loyalty, the obedience pieces. The politicians, the pigs, the thought leaders of the farm, they're not doing this for their own benefit. They're here to make sure that you make the right choices. We have to just we have to make sure that you follow the science. We just need to do we need to make sure that the vulnerable populations are protected. It echoes of the last 2 years in my mind.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm not a psychologist, so correct me if I'm wrong. Like I can't really figure out whether that's like verbiage used by a sociopath or by a narcissist.
I think either option is valid.
Okay, that's what I thought.
But that's why like, I'm not in charge because I want to be in charge. I'm in charge because if we left it up to you, you might make the wrong call. If you decided about your bodily autonomy on your own, you might decide poorly, and then where would we be?
Yeah,
I mean, it seems very familiar, like as in like the last 2 years of saying like again a lot. It seems very familiar in similarity to the last 2 years of COVID. You could absolutely choose to do this. We'll just exclude you from certain segments of society on the pretense of health and safety. Everybody's very quiet.
I think because we're all just like Trudeau.
Well, I do not care for Trudeau. The loyalty and obedience piece again, echoes of lots of modernism. Believe the science, trust the politicians, believe the experts. It's very don't question, do as you're told.
Yeah, which for like so bizarre that like the progressive, anti-fascist movement and all this is becoming more and more and more fascist, like and totalitarian and all of that, where it's like, oh no, we got to listen to everyone and love everyone, but like, you might make the wrong choice, so we're going to make that for you. And if you do make the wrong choice, we're going to have to exclude.
There's consequences. There's a punishment.
Yeah.
Well,
right?
I mean, in Animal Farm, they started executing animals that also like felt compelled to come forward. It was very questionable whether or not they actually committed the crimes.
There was a significant amount of what read like false confessions, which echoes back to Stalinism and into the 30s and 40s with a lot of struggle sessions.
We maybe should have done, I know we're not doing it, but like Gulag Archipelago after this one, because it would have dovetailed really well into that, like, because that's what they kind of talk about. And it was like all the people that, either confessed or were forced to confess to things that didn't actually happen, just because they felt that they had to, and then they were chucked in Gulag or executed.
In order to end the struggle session, right? That's
it just made it worse. Yeah.
I feel like there's definitely some parallels there. So those were the couple of things that I really had highlighted that I wanted to make sure that we hit on for big talking points.
Well, I mean, if you didn't write those talking points, nobody else would do it right.
Well, that's why I'm the leader. I don't drink the milk and eggs milk and apples for my own benefit. I consume
benefit of everybody.
Yours.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Well, except the listeners, whom I have the utmost contempt for.
Yeah, but you're also the only one that'll drink weird beers.
But he does it for our benefit, not his.
No,
That's right.
The weird beer is definitely for my own amusement. In my defense, Gavin bought me the weird skull beer with the Collective Arts Ransack the Universe, and it's not unlike filleting a pine tree. It's quite good.
It's not unlike what?
Performing fellatio on a pine tree.
Okay, that's what I was.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. It sounds kind of sappy.
Hey, well done. Well done.
Oh my gosh.
Is there anything else that we wanted to hit on with this? The seven laws of laws of animalism changed over time to suit the party. The intellectual class, the political class, the pigs, were doing things at their hardship of having to eat the extra food and do the extra thinking and file the extra reports to run the farm without actually producing anything of value.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Well worth the read.
The
and
maxims
I would even say
changed
more than
over
one.
times. I do actually, maybe we got to touch on the maxims, because a lot of the characters in the book, a lot of the animals do get well said, sir. A lot of the animals in the book do get named and get talked about. And obviously, Benjamin is my favorite.
Yeah.
The sheep are never named in any case. The sheep are, I think, the chickens might be the other animal that never are given a name.
You're right. The
think so.
fowl. Yeah. I don't know if like the raven or the cat or any of them were.
The raven
either,
has
though.
a name. The raven's name is something like Moses, maybe.
Oh, maybe. But is the
Moses.
cat? I don't know if the cat is.
No, but I think there's only a singular cat.
That's true.
Yeah.
You're
Whereas,
right.
like,
The sheep are like consistent
well, but
because they're the ones that sing the hymns.
I think the sheep are supposed to be like the collective population, right? Like they are the bulk of the population. They're representative of that sort of nameless masses that just kind of like the NPCs, right? Like, to use modern terms, they're just the like.
And I'm not sure if this is where like the term sheep comes from, but I feel like if it's
or
not,
if you
then
use that to be the character and develop, But
because they just walk around and swallow the gravy, right?
Well, yeah, but
like
I mean,
two legs
bad,
good, 4 legs bad.
Yeah, it's no different than
4 legs good,
man
2
bad,
legs better.
Ford man bad.
But this is
right.
this is, repeat the very short maxim that
because they were told by other people, this
people
is what you need
of
to believe.
Authority. This is the sheep
so
when the sheep
scenario,
relearned their slogan. The sheep relearned their slogan, right? That was 4 legs good, 2 legs bad originally.
Yeah.
And then the sheep were taken off and isolated by themselves and given individual instruction for a week. And the slogan changed to 4 legs good, 2 legs better. And the pigs learned how to walk on only 2 legs. And there's this dialectic change. And the sheep just went along with it as though it had always been. Yeah. It's not unlike watching boomers watch TV. Well, the TV said that's, but really,
and it's in color.
If your boomer watches TV, you should turn their CNN off or MSNBC or Fox. It doesn't matter what brand of brainwashing the boomer in your life subscribes to. Somewhere you have a boomer that watches too much talk news.
Yeah, because it went from like one mask good, no mask bad, to one mask bad, 2 mask good.
Right.
You can say the same about vaccines. They're talking about like the 4th and 5th now. So
So also, if you do have a boomer that watches too much
there.
Right. But also, just to say, if you do have a boomer that does watch too much mainstream media, we do have a 346 episode backlog.
But then you got to show to have them download a podcast.
No. Just put the YouTubes, and I'm sure the non-boomer can figure out how to get them all to play.
It's true.
Put it on cassette tape for them and stick it in their tape deck.
Yeah. If you become a Patreon for just $10 an episode, I will make you a cassette tape.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
I have to update the Patreon later and figure out where to buy cassette tapes.
Oh, you can
You know
just
what?
like get
For
anything
15, we'll put
online.
it on fucking 8-track.
Yeah.
Don't commit to that unless we know we can get
Yeah.
8 tracks.
4-track reel to
I
reel.
know
Yeah,
where I can
let's
get
do
an
this.
8-track player.
I have the player.
We're halfway
Yeah.
there. We are the
Yeah.
Bon John to someone's Jovi.
I also have a cassette player and a record player. So, yeah.
Yeah, no. fucking
Not
booming.
sure what to do with
Oh,
that.
you can also get, okay, I'm the person that doesn't like throw shit out. So I still have the same Polaroid camera that my grandma used to take pictures of the tractors with, like probably 40 years ago, 35,
Nice.
40 years ago.
Is it the one where
It
you gotta
costs
blow up the bulb every time?
You gotta like flip it up, and like it's like a push button. It's very vintage. There's not a whole lot to it, but let me tell you, you can still get the film. It costs $30.
Yeah. I also do some old school photography and
Sure,
some
there
of
are
the
hipsters that are into
Yeah.
that sort of
I
thing.
wouldn't call this photography, but it took a decent photo of my dog. But I'm just saying, you can get like a whole bunch of that shit. So if you
yeah,
really
it's
wanna get
available.
into
It's
it.
just expensive. Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
not commit to it until we know how much to set the Patreon tier 2.
So
Yeah.
so
There you go.
5 cassettes is 5 for $20 on Amazon.
All right, so for $10 an episode, I will mail you a cassette.
Yeah. So you can
Yeah.
play it for your boomer parents.
There you go.
I should send some to my parents.
Did we have another point about any of the animals? I made my point about sheep. I made my point about the fowl.
I think my like whole collective thought is that, you know, you can see the parallels between like different groups of animals and different like characteristics, but also in the humans too. But like people really have to start paying attention, because you can for sure draw these lines. And I mean, there's a risk and a reward to that. Drawing the lines like that to history and comparatively is good, because it's easy to understand some of the events that have happened in history and what was going on. But it's also really easy to, you know, draw a line in the sand.
This is part of the problem with allegory, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, allegory makes things approachable, but it also means like you might miss the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not saying that we're missing the point, because I think that everybody that's made comments, and especially the ones in the, not especially, but definitely the ones in the comments here, aside for one chat member, but everybody's like, I think pretty close to the same idea of what's going on in the book and that sort of thing. And, you know, it's been pretty declared as to like the historical narrative to it, but I don't know. I just hope people don't read this kind of stuff and just dismiss it as as like a point in history, when it's a really unique opportunity to, you know, be like, where do I fit in this social scheme and what's going on? Because it's a repetitive structure.
That was why I was highlighting and making notes to myself. So I'm like, oh, the loyalty and obedience, and like literally using the word science to describe their approach to this. Well, the leaders are making all of these hardships, and it's like, well, but I see the same thing. Like, you're going to like G7 conferences, and you go to your own winery on the weekend, and you go out to eat, and you go to sporting events, but the rest of us are not allowed to, because we don't conform to your particular brand of...
So sometimes even they don't conform, because I mean, it's come out that like Ford isn't vaccinated, none of his family are, but here he is making the rules.
What?
Yeah, his daughter apparently outed him, but it's like, okay, so you're like, we're not allowed in government buildings, but here he is, the head of the provincial government at least, and apparently not vaccinated, and he's allowed into the government building. So like, he doesn't have to follow his own rules. Because I guess
this is
some of the
all
the animals are
and
equal,
one law
some
for
are
them.
more equal than others, right? Like,
this is I mean, this is why it is such a good allegory.
So my big takeaway from this is get all your friends to read this and have an hour-long conversation about your point of view about anything in this book, and your friend group will either get stronger or smaller.
Both of those things are good.
Yes.
Both of those things have happened.
Does this mean that we're
like
the three of us are all the friends Pierre has? Is that what I'm taking from this?
Well, I guess
Yeah.
by proxy, it depends on how many friends his wife has.
I'm okay with acquaintances. I don't want to be too forceful.
Okay.
But yeah, no, but like that's my big thing out of this whole book, right? Like, if you can get your friends to read it, and,
I think that's
start opening up.
I think that's a very valid point. Is we don't have the ability to discuss politics in a, I don't want to say
Open manner.
friendly way, but open is a good word for it. I think it is difficult to discuss political ideology, beliefs, trusting the science in a way that is not confrontational. Because I know, like, there's very little I'm going to say that you guys aren't going to show up again next week, and it's just going to be me here by myself talking to the internet.
Yeah.
And I think that the vast majority of the people here are willing to have conversations with people that are vastly different than they are and have different opinions and everything.
Remember that time I talked about marijuana?
And
that was weird.
Yeah. No, but I had a conversation like that the other day. I actually didn't even pick up the phone call from my wife was calling me, which it wasn't of importance, but still, like I said, I'll call you back.
Me and my employee, right?
Oh yeah, I know. But me and my employee, right? So he's a different religion and belief. And Ramadan is happening right now. So this was a few weeks ago. And he was like, yeah. And he was saying, oh, that's tomorrow. So I was like, okay, well, I grew up Christian. I'm not so much, I've crossed the T's and dot my I's that I've got like the 4 or 5 papers you need. I don't have to do any of it as an adult, but I'm like, I'm not a practicing Catholic. I was like, I grew up Catholic. I went to church every Sunday. I didn't have the option of sleeping in. I got dragged to church every Sunday. Right. And he was Muslim and he's like, Ramadan's coming. So I was like, okay. So yeah, no, we had a good like 45-minute conversation about, I was like, okay, what's Ramadan about? What's this? What's that? Like, what are your beliefs behind it? And everything. And I was just like, I'm not going to change you otherwise, because it was like, I grew up Catholic, but it was just nice to have a good, like 45-minute conversation about what he believed in. And I'm like, you're not going to change me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I was like, I'm not trying to convert you into anything. And I was like, you can like try to, but I'm like, there's going to be a point where I was like, okay, we're done talking about it. And I'm like, respect that fact. But I was like, it was just actually nice to have like a good 45-minute open conversation about like, why do you believe in it? I don't need to understand why. I'm just curious, why do you follow through Ramadan? What are the exceptions about it? Because I'm like, what we do for work can be demanding depending on the time of year. So it's like, are there exceptions? Like, I don't want to know that you like passed out in the middle of a fucking field fixing something because you didn't eat all day, right? Like, so yeah, so but the more and more you can have those open conversations with someone and just say, there's going to be a point where, either it's going to get too far for you. So your safe word is pineapple and mine is juice. And, let's have a conversation, and everything that's said, we understand, but like, it doesn't get brought up later. Right. Like,
sure.
But that's candor used to be a thing, right? You used to be able to do that, I think, more. But then the whole idea of like, oh, well, you don't talk about politics and religion in public amongst that, but those are the only things that really, really matter. And it's not that like you can't associate with people that don't agree with you. You absolutely can, and you should, because that's how you get a more well-rounded worldview. But like, just because you're associating with them and everything doesn't mean you have to agree with them either.
Well, but this is the problem, though, is that I think that our society in general has been slowly more conditioned to the idea of resisting confrontation, that confrontation is actually inherently evil. And the problem with that is that if, like, without pressure, you don't get diamonds. Right? It's the same philosophy. Exactly. You have to find resistance. You have to encounter resistance to challenge your beliefs, right? You're not going to be challenged in your beliefs unless somebody comes and does the challenging. But also B is that you need to be able to articulate your perspective to people. So if you stay in your own little echo chamber of information with all the people that are sharing the same information and know all the same things, you're never going to have to articulate where you're at because there's an assumption. That's where you get common sense, right? So when that starts adjusting, you're forced to be like, oh, hey, why do we do this? Why do I wear a seatbelt? Why do I do this? Why do I follow the rules? Why do I,
because the man in the funny outfit will find me if I don't.
But that's
you're just about to say government for most of those answers, but
but that's you need that. Otherwise, you start watching stuff on YouTube and you get triggered when somebody says something like, in theory, communism's a good system, which factually, in theory, it fucking is.
Yeah.
It's just that the in theory doesn't translate well to in practice. In practice, it's fucking terrible and probably one of the worst systems on the planet.
I like that Gavin is trying to troll somebody who's probably no longer listening, but that's fun for me.
It's fair though.
Yeah, this way I'm not feeding them, but I still get my jab in.
But I mean, this is the issue is like you were talking about people getting offended and stuff like that, Gavin. That's maybe where the education has gone wrong, is that people seem to be able to have opposing opinions, but they can't seem to handle them. Right.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do? Well, why don't you just start by being basically professional? You don't have to agree with people.
2 generations in Western English speaking society, the 2 things you're not allowed to talk about are politics and religion. What are the only things that really matter? Politics and religion is a subset of politics. So
I don't know. So what you decide to drink, and if Megadeth or
Megadeth
is better. I mean,
Megadeth is a little superior band, 100%. Yeah. All right, Slayer, Anthrax, although for different reasons, because Dave Mustaine wasn't either of those.
Slayer.
Yeah.
Slayer?
Oh, yes.
Over Anthrax?
Yeah.
I can't even contribute to this at all.
All right. Well, Liz, feel free to throw out your controversial musical opinions. I mean, Taylor Swift versus someone who's not Taylor Swift.
Marty Robbins or Kenny Rogers.
So here's my thing. I will listen to, I was born and raised on country music, hands down. So
country music or country and Western music? Because those are different.
Country.
Like classic country,
but not Western.
90s country, like all of the,
and
then also Twain. Like, what? That was like,
I think that's why I hate it the most.
But like, I am not a fan of her. Anyways, but no, I was raised on like Stompin' Tom and like all these guys too, right? So my grandpa was East Coast. So I also got like a lot of East Coast, like hootenanny type songs. Nobody probably knows what that word is.
I mean, that's a good word. We should bring that back.
Part Scottish, so yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. So
I've drank
hootenannies
at a bar called Hootenanny that played a lot of live Celtic music. It was amazing.
Yeah, right, exactly. Kayleys and hootenannies. I grew up with those. Thank you. Like Oak Ridge Boys. That's right. But like, I am not a person that is going to debate bands. I don't really care. I'm not a fangirl. I go to a concert if I know that it's going to be a good one, and I don't care who's playing. I'm going with like my friends and I'm having a night out. That's my thing. I don't band. Yeah, I don't like love bands. I like, oh, hey, I'm listening to a song. I love that song. I don't know who sings it, but I love it.
I just enjoy like twisting the dial a little bit on people when it's like, well, I'm a metalhead. All right. So why is Lemmy not the best musician ever? And people will fight over picking on Lemmy.
Yeah.
But I mean, he is the best musician ever.
I mean, he is the best musician. I don't disagree. But like, if you say that he's not, like people that are really into heavy metal will like throw fists over disrespecting Lemmy.
Well, I mean, all right, let's put it this way. Who would win in a fight, Lemmy or God?
Lemmy.
Wrong.
Yeah. How so?
Because they're the same person.
Oh,
Lemmy is God.
Well played, good sir. Well played.
That's not bad. That is. We may have to replace Chuck Norris jokes with Lemmy jokes.
Well, there's always room for a good
Chuck Norris jokes.
Yeah. Like there are only 4 horses of the apocalypse because Chuck Norris prefers to walk.
What?
Is Lemmy and Megadeth? No internet. Lemmy is not Megadeth. Keep your opinions to your.
Although I did see Megadeth open for Motorhead. That was a fucking awesome show.
God, that sounds badass.
Yeah, in the Hammer.
Oh, that sounds awful.
I was
Pass.
gonna say, and
Mm.
actually, you know what?
Better than Toronto.
I did. Okay, so I used to live in Hamilton, and I actually quite enjoyed it. It was like, I don't know,
Aside from the
big
smell.
city, but yes, definitely encountered that a few times. I had to tell my mom that her vehicle was not broken. It had smelled like that for 2 days in the city.
It's just
She's
the Hammer.
like, what? I was like, yeah,
I don't mind
don't
Hamilton.
worry.
I mean, as long
No,
as
I
you
like
stay
it. If
off,
I have to
as
live
long
in a
as you
city,
stay off Barton Street, you're fine.
that doesn't bug me. I used to like my placement in university. I worked at Hamilton Wentworth Men's Maximum Security.
Does not sound like a good time.
It was a great time. I worked with the chaplain's office. They didn't want to piss me off because then I wouldn't give them like
Bibles.
No,
They're
you just
chaplains.
actually
you can't piss them off. It's against the
well,
religion.
Yeah.
but so
I
here's
don't
the
know. I
gig
met
though.
a sky pilot or two in my time that was not a fan.
Military chaplains are different.
You know what though?
Military, you can piss them off.
Even in like the jail, pretty much the biggest hit being like in the chaplain's office is that you could request them to come and like talk with you, right? So everybody wants to get off the range for a bit, but it's like if somebody's a jerk, you're not gonna meet with them. So they had to be really nice all the time. And I mean, the grocery store was right next door, so it was like really good for me. I was able to like go to work and then go to the jail and then go grocery shopping and then go home. It's a good system.
Well, there you go.
It's an option, it sounds like.
Yeah.
I would do it again. It's a good experience.
I'd
Smelled
like to
weird.
stay out of jail.
Smelled weird. Every jail I've toured is stinky.
Does it smell like
Weird.
burnt rubber?
Smells like teenage boys.
Yeah, a group of mostly men locked up in.
Yeah, teenage boys.
Burnt
And
rubber
then-
and mayonnaise for lube. Gotcha.
Oh.
That's gross. The only place that I was like, oh, this is weird, actually, is that we toured Vanier, which is like the female prison in Milton. And it's attached to Maplehurst, which is the men's max facility. If you end up as a woman in a maximum security, you cray. You're like super crazy, right? Because like, I mean, there's still the bias.
Hip write a song about that?
Probably. But you're
They
like,
wrote a song about anything Canadian.
that's true.
I feel like that was...
So the people as you're walking through, like, it's crazy. It's like, you just get a vibe of like, this crazy bitch is going to break through these bars and choke me soon. Like, ugh.
Some people are into that.
Yeah.
We're just going to keep moving along because I'm not comfortable with this anymore.
You're supposed
Animal
to
Farm.
talk about things that
Great
make you
book.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Well, let's do the next two books.
Let's also talk about what we talked about. Let's have an open conversation about things.
Yeah.
Whether you
Especially
like it or
things that
not.
make you feel uncomfortable. Yeah.
I'm way too pretty to go to prison.
I think we'll probably have some conversations about some things that make us feel uncomfortable in the next book, for sure.
Like the language and the
so.
slang, and that is a good segue. So thank you for letting me out of that proverbial jail cell.
I got you. We'll talk about all of the in and out, the ultra violence.
In May, we're going to do Clockwork Orange, and in June, for book club, we're going to do 48 Laws of Power, which is banned in most prisons. Fun fact. Yeah.
How do you know that?
I was on the Amazon website. I don't know. I read things.
Will not deliver to prisons.
But you're just right up your alley. Will not deliver to prisons.
So as part of my work release program, they won't let me read that one. Somebody else is going to have to fill in that week.
Oh, that's why you're so uncomfortable. A little PTSD?
I mean, been there, done that, got the orange jumpsuit.
Ugh.
So all I'm going to say about book club is 48 Laws of Power took over pretty much a month to get to my house when I ordered it a few months ago.
It's the end of April now. We're doing it at the end of June. People have time. I got my copy.
Good tips, though.
Yeah, no, it did take quite a while because we ordered it for a personal collection as well. And it did take almost a month to get here. So would be good to maybe order both books now, and you would probably,
And
just
if you're
a heads up.
playing along at home for book club, or even if you're not and you just listen to the podcast and want to take a small piece of Jeff Bezos's cock rocket away from him and give it to me, if
And
you
his
use our
Twitter.
affiliate, we can take away Jeff Bezos's Twitter.
We did.
Well,
Elon
he
did.
Oh yeah, no, wrong person. My bad. I've been drinking.
Different Rocket Man.
Different
Rocket
rich
Man,
person. My
Elton
bad.
John?
No,
Yeah.
not
Yes.
that Rocket Man.
Yes,
Oh.
you could take a part of Elton John's rocket away from him.
I'd rather
Yeah, I don't know
not.
Yeah, no, I don't know about that.
Makes me.
I mean,
cringe a little.
maybe the star-shaped sunglasses just because those are fun, but
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So I fucked
But
up on the wrong.
If you
rich
buy
person,
from
my bad.
Amazon, Andrew can use the proceeds, if you use the link, to buy himself some Elton John star-shaped sunglasses to wear for our viewing audience.
which would be super fun for me and probably my son because he's 4 and he's into that sort of weird shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Star sunglasses for everyone.
Star sunglasses for everyone, but mostly me.
There is a question from the
question?
viewers.
Oh no. I hate the
Andrew,
viewers.
are you in jail?
I would prefer to move on to the next question, actually.
My lawyers prevent me from answering this question.
For legal reasons, I am obligated to not answer this question.
Yeah. Anyways, moving on.
I can neither confirm nor deny his physical location at the moment.
Definitely not
Yeah.
Maplehurst. Is that better or worse? Tune in next
Well,
week to find out.
You know what? I've also toured Stratford.
We have a goal. We don't even have a
I
jail.
know. Well, actually, it's got like 100 inmates in it.
Yes, but it's a goal.
I know. That's a fancy old-fashioned word for jail.
Right. And I shouldn't say guys. I don't know. They're all men. I
They are.
wouldn't want to assume
They
their
do
genders.
They
But
do not.
The employees are goalers as opposed to jailers.
Oh, no,
Fun
they're
fact.
all called corrections.
So do they wear
officers.
like the pads with the mask and the?
Different kind of goal.
Oh.
Probably a
I did
different
some.
kind of
I
stick,
did some
too.
quick interning though.
Uh,
If you can get 1649 plus tax, you
oh,
can get yourself
Oh,
some
man.
very own star-shaped sunglasses off of Amazon. So
Use the affiliate link. Give me a small piece of the. If you buy things on the affiliate link, like books or literally anything else on Amazon, after clicking on the affiliate link, either in the show notes or on the bottom of the website where it says Amazon affiliate link, if you buy stuff from Amazon, we get a very small portion of those proceeds, and you are literally giving me a small piece of Jeff Bezos's penis rocket.
in which he will turn around and give a very small portion of that back to him by buying some star-shaped sunglasses off of Amazon.
Or in other cases, I mean, listen to how dulcet Liz sounds lately. There is a new Amazon microphone to make Liz sound that much better.
Hold it up to the microphone.
Because
People can-
hold the microphone up to the.
Wait a
I
minute.
mean, it does
Yeah.
sound good. Not that Liz sounded bad before, but also proof that girls are on the internet. Liz
Yeah.
does sound very good with the new microphone.
oh, thank you.
You sound like you.
Oh, thank you. I can make like a different voice if that's the skill set we're trying to develop.
You can
Wow,
help
we-
Andrew learn his
Piggy kid
Yeah.
voice or whatever.
yeah.
I really do feel like I need to work on like different voices for the various characters in this. It's like when we get as far as like my son having the attention that's needed to go through like the Chronicles of Narnia. I feel like
Yeah, you
all of the
Oh.
characters in Chronicles are going to need their own voice. And I figure I've got like 2 to 4 years to get that nailed down.
I
So-
think that sometime we should have like story time and we find a book that has enough characters that we all pick a character and learn a voiceover.
Chronicles.
Man.
Yeah.
And secret confession. That's kind of why I like doing audiobooks. Because they do that.
Yeah, in most of them.
Yeah. The good ones, anyways. The boring ones, the
Yeah.
guy just like reads in the same narrator
yeah.
voice. You're like, fuck this dick.
Yeah.
Things that get said in Millhaven.
Yes.
Did we talk about enough stuff? I feel like we've rounded out 90 minutes. That's probably good enough.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
want to come and hang out with us on Discord, because you just can't get enough of our witty banter, we have a Discord server. Links are in the show notes. We'll go around thing. Liz, do you have shout outs, closing comments, things I cut you off from saying before? Anything you'd like to add?
I don't think so. I mean, I have, if anybody wants to follow me on the socials, I'm feeling less salty these days. You can follow me on Instagram at Liz_Fawcett 9876. I'm also occasionally on Twitter. I don't know my handle for that, but I'm sure you can figure it out based on
You might be on it
Instagram.
more in future now that it's a safer space for us, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, I still think that Twitter is like epic for trolls. Like it's probably worse. Oh, I'm at Liz Fawcett 4 on Twitter. And then, you know, the good old book of face. You can find me, but I don't add people who I don't know. So I won't accept your friend request if I don't know you.
So there may or may not be girls on the internet. Good luck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
have fun.
They're only 3 miles away.
That's
I
what the ads
encourage
keep
everybody.
saying, but they also want a credit card. So
Yeah, I encourage people to just Google girls on the internet and, you know, see what you find.
I'll be in my bunk.
Yeah. We should just read the script from that TV show.
I mean, 100% I am on board with that, but also I call Captain Tight Pants.
Oh,
It's fine. I'm Cobb.
You would be. That makes sense. You are a man we could call Jane.
I'm good with it.
Also, Darren's here, so I'm not doing the 90s what's up thing, but hi, Darren.
I was wondering who that was.
I refuse to read things in the scream voice, but Gavin, where can everybody find you?
The best place to find me on the internet is on Instagram, UrbexGTA. Or here.
Or here. Pierre?
She wants some t-shirt stuff off the wall customizing at Gmail. I think we're on Tickety Talk, Instagram. Look up off the wall on all the socialist things. And my wife probably set something up. But what she says goes, so we're good.
Works for me. If you've listened to the show this long, if you have put up with our witty or not banter, if you have suffered through the disdain that I have for our YouTube audience, some of you more than others. Also, I'm really glad the Albertan is back under a different name, so that tickles me in a certain way.
Oh my.
This is probably a
Not
jail
that kind
thing.
of a
We won't
way.
get it.
Jesus.
It's a jail thing. We don't ask questions. It smells like mayonnaise. Don't ask questions.
It shouldn't. I hope not.
$20
if you've
is
listened-
$20, right?
Huh?
I
Just
mean,
saying.
it's not a foot long, but it smells like a foot.
A pack of ramen noodles in jail is a pack of ramen noodles. Just saying.
No.
Where was I going with this? Right, discount codes. If you're shopping on RagnarokTactical.ca, you deserve a discount code. And I feel like I may have to up it after this week.
Yeah.
Use the discount code Patreon at checkout.
Oh gosh.
Literally take money out of my child's college fund.
You're so manipulative when you say that.
I know. I've been working on my 48 laws of power.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Trying.
Napoleon.
I mean, if the bacon fits.
Yeah.
I have to apologize to Rod Giltaka. We couldn't get Rod on the show tonight. Rod did not do the homework. It is book club. Last Monday of the month is always book club. So next month, if Rod is ready to talk about ultraviolence, which I feel like is maybe not his brand, but we'll see what happens. For all of our listeners out there in podcast land, I would like to remind you that all of the animals are equal, but some of them are more equal than others. Can't find the button.